Thank you for being here tonight. Welcome. Let's start with some words of wisdom from Tim.
Thank you, CC, and good to see everybody as always. So here's the words of wisdom, then let me do a little explanation. When we blame someone else for our plight or dilemma, we give up the ability to make a positive change. Sounds a little harsh, doesn't it? But it's become so fashionable to finger point right away. This past weekend, it doesn't make any difference. It's rhetoric. I was at New Hampshire Music Educators, and they did some breakout groups, which are always healthy. And in this case, they were looking at how they could improve their organization, so forth. And they all came back, and then they highlighted what was the main theme. Almost to the person, it was, we can't get people to show up. They don't live through their responsibilities they've promised to do. The enthusiasm wears off fast. They say they want to do it, but then when it comes down to it, there's always something else in the way. And these people done some real soul searching to come up with these answers. But in every case, it was somebody else had to do something to make it right. And that's such a self-fooling thing to do because we can't control other people. And it's like as soon as everybody else gets this right, then we're going to be. So when I suggested, well, maybe you should look at what you can do to make it better. And it was almost like a glaze of like, well, yeah, but it's not my fault because I show up. And we go back to the finger pointing. When we blame somebody else for our conditions, we give up the power to make a positive change. Those are my words of wisdom.
Beautiful. As always, thank you, Timmer. Scott, do you have a tip for us this week?
I do. I hope everybody had a fantastic week. I guess you could title this segment "And Both, Not Either Or." this segment. So when we teach, so basically what we're talking about is the idea of technique and skill versus artistry and musicianship. And when we teach technique and artistry, it's a simultaneous process. However, we do have to build a foundation, right? There has to be a foundation there. There's some pedagogues in our profession sometimes who believe that we should only live in the reality of music making and emotions and feelings. And true, authentic music making is always the goal, right? However, we're sometimes forced to feel guilty or shamed when we talk about technique and skill, and that somehow we're not musicians. So one of my favorite sayings is, it doesn't have to be either or. Many times it's and both, right? The interpretation of music and skills are built in tandem with musical maturity and student growth taken into consideration. These two ideas of skill and artistry happen hand in hand as we build capacity and literacy. So I think that's the part that's really important. They have to be musically literate. The journey is to teach students to become musicians where they're equipped to make their own musical judgments, right? This is also true with creating a culture of excellence, right? We don't have to choose between whether we want to be musically significant or personally significant as a music educator. It's a simultaneous process, and we should do both. So technique and skill and artistry and musicianship, the ability to be musically significant and be culturally significant, and that's really what we're about. Those are my words of wisdom.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And really, just to hear that. And, I would like to, I'm going to admit to the fact that sometimes, y'all, because we do have such brilliant minds, we always just kind of trust each other in the words that we share. But isn't it magical when it all kind of comes together? And I'm listening to Tim, and then I'm listening to Scott. And now you are about to hear from Cameron Jenkins. And, I almost jumped on Facebook Live earlier today to go, if you need a shot of positivity, please come tonight. Okay. If you want to know about content and context, the and both, filled with maybe an overdose of positivity come to Slam tonight, because Cameron is that. We're talking about teacher of the century, kind of, oh, stop shaking your head. Like, has in his youthful career in Mississippi been recognized for the incredible work that he is doing in the classroom, and has traveled the globe to share his positivity with so many educators and so many students. I'm just honored that he made time to share with us tonight here at Slam, because he walks the talk. Ladies and gentlemen, Cameron Jenkins.
Wow, wow, wow. You are too kind, too sweet, and I give that back to everyone on the call. It is so good to be with you. As my sister and my friend said, yes, I'm from Mississippi. You will hear the Mississippi in my voice, and I don't try to hide it. And I'm glad to be from the big state of Mississippi, born and raised here. I want to have some fun tonight. If you're okay with that, I just want to have some fun. I want to be able to give back. My mission statement in life is to be a human forklift and to lift people up one conversation at a time. So if we can do that tonight, this is a night well served, and I'm so glad to be with you. I want to have some fun. If you could grab a piece of paper, just a blank piece of paper, if you have one nearby. I know you have your phones and your technology. If you're watching this later on the recording, I want you to grab a piece of paper as well. I want you to participate with us. Go with us. Go with us. I want to go into the future, into all of our futures. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down, just for a moment, I want you to write down the year you were born. So I'm going to do it with you. Write down the year you were born. And I want you to add exactly 100 years to that year, okay? Exactly 100 years to that year from the year you were born. All right, perfect. So we got that down. And I want you to go back just 5 years. So you would be exactly 95 years old. So make sure we all did this together. We went forward 100 years, CC, and then we went back just 5 years. So we are 95 years old. And here's what I want you to know. You still have great health. You're still able to get around. You're still able to drive. You're able to do the things you want to do. And the local news station has decided to come to your front porch or back porch, whichever one you prefer, and they want to interview you. They want to know, in the year you have written down, they want to know, what was your legacy as an educator? What was your legacy as a music educator? I want you to do me a favor. I want you to try your best to put it into a soundbite, what you would desire for your legacy to be. So we're thinking ahead. I'm in the year 2085, so I'm way out there in 2085. And I want to write down with you, and I want you to take this participation moment with me to write down what your legacy be in a sentence. I did this same exercise, Marcus, with a group of young music educators. They have one more year before they start the great student teaching. And Scott, to have them to do this same exercise. And we went for it, and they were like, they were several years ahead of me. I can't tell them myself because that's gonna date me there. And they were saying things like, you know what, I want to be known as the teacher who cares. I want to be known as the teacher who is there not just for the concert, but beyond the concert. I want to be known as the leaning post. That's what one student said. I want to be known as the teacher who remembered the birthdays and the big days, and was there to greet and make sure every student that I came in contact with, that they were better after they left my presence. If you don't mind, if there's anybody here and you've written something down, that sound bite, that one sentence, if you would throw it in the chat, that would be amazing. If you could transfer it from your paper to the chat. And in the year of whatever your year is, what would you like to be said about your legacy? Here's what I know. When we get into the thick of it all, and Dr. Tim, we're hustling from one concert to the next, one rehearsal to the next, go, 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 go. Sometimes we lose focus of that front porch or back porch conversation of when we're 95 and still got good health, still can go and do the things we want to do. But how will we be remembered by our students and our colleagues and the parents who supported us? And if you have that sentence or that vision statement, really, truly, that's what it is in reverse. If you have that, just throw it in the chat. I look forward to seeing. CC says in 2069, yay! You still have your perfect health. You're still driving around, doing the things you want to do. Go and listen to the bands, the choirs, the orchestras, all the things. I love it. I love it. I love it. You're sharing your years. Yes. 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 I love it, Adley. I love it. I love it. Thank y'all so much for sharing. I love it. Yes, Cece said that she was always there to help her students find the best version of themselves by working towards bringing her best self. Yes, absolutely. Bring your best self every single day. Being this idea, it came down to this for me, Scott. It was, I just want to be the person who cared. I want to be the person who cared. I want to be the person that when they look back, that they can say, you know what, Cameron truly cared. And it reminded me of a quote. And I want you to write it down if you can. If you still got your paper, I want you to write it down. It's by the 26th president of the United States. The 26th president of the United States. His last name was Roosevelt. Anybody know his first name? Anybody know his first name? Anybody know his first name? Drop it in the chat. Somebody's gonna be there. Somebody's gonna beat me to it. The 26th president of the United States, last name Roosevelt, first name Theodore. That's right, Teddy Roosevelt. Absolutely. Somebody I did this one time said Franklin. I said, no, wrong Roosevelt. Wrong Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt said this, my friend, and I want you to write it down. Teddy Roosevelt says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Yep. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And once you have that on your paper, I want you to do me a huge favor. I want you to put a box around the word that jumps off the page for you. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Out of that statement, what jumps off the page for you? I just want you to put a box around it. This particular quote, I've presented this quote to so many student leaders. I've presented this quote to teachers, to administrators, and we really danced around this quote in so many ways. And it's really so much to unpack. But the idea of having the people skills to make sure on the front end of all that we do that they know that you care about them, you care about their outcome, you care about the future that they have, their preferred future. You care to make sure that you would tell them the truth, but you would do so in such a way that it's always to build them up and to lift them up. For me, I don't know about for you guys tonight and those who will watch this recording later, but for me, the word that jumps off the page is care. Yeah, and it's foundational. Like it's like right there at the heart of all the things that I want to be known for and remember for is just how much I care about my people and how much I care to make sure that they are cared for and taken care of. I want to take this word care for the next just couple of minutes, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I want to take this word care and just break it out into an acronym because someone presented to me one time and they said, Brian, they said, how do I really get people to know I care? Like for real, how do you do it? What's the magic? Maurice, what's the magic to it? Like, how do you make it happen? And I had to think about it. I had to sit with that idea for a moment. And it came down to this. The first thing is the C. And the C is this. The C is I want you to call them by name. I want you to call them by name. That's what the C stands for in the acronym of CARE, to call them by name. So if you're meeting someone for the first time, the very best thing to do is to gain their name. Once you have their name, you have the sweetest word in their vocabulary. So imagine that, the sweetest word in their vocabulary. So it takes you all the way back to their grandparents or maybe their parents that call them by that same name. When I hear the name Cameron, oh my goodness, we could be in New York. It could be thousands of other people. I'm going to turn and look and see what's going on. I'm sure if you hear Scott, all my Scots over here tonight, or those who watch it later, it's going to catch you. It's like, wait a minute, somebody just called my name. And you may not know them. Now, let's be honest, music educators, how many of you have pretended to know a former student or colleague until you can get more details? How many of you had to do that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Absolutely. And we probably perfected some of the questions that come with it, right? Like, okay, tell me what's going on now. Where are you now? Okay. How was school? Oh, that's right. Perfect. I got it. I remember now. Yeah, I've been guilty of doing that for sure. But here's what I know. Here's what I know. That when meeting someone or caring them for a lifetime, to hear them call you by your name, oh, it's everything. And here's the magic phrase. This is what I teach student leaders. So those of you who are responsible for training other student leaders in your program, here's the magic phrase that I teach them. This is the question I want them to present, particularly when they're meeting new students or even people in the community. I want them to say, can you help me with your name? That's the magic phrase that I want them to use. That's a tool so they don't have to think about it. Can you help me with your name? Someone says, well, Cameron, why would I present it that way? Because when I say, if I'm meeting you for the first time, Nathan, I say, can you help me with your name? And there's not a name badge or something I identify you with. And I say, can you help me with your name? The moment you give me your name, the moment you say Nathan, you become the superhero of this exchange. Sometimes that's the first 5 seconds or 10 seconds. You become the superhero. And I want you to have the hero's cape for the entire conversation. Friends, that's the power of servant leadership. It's the whole idea of you first. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to see your day brighter. I'm here to see you come up higher. I'm here to see you go up from a 3 to a 4 or a 4 to a 5 or a 9 to a 10. I'm here to see you make that next step. Can you help me with your name? I don't know about you, but I struggle, Allie. I struggled for a while just to remember names, try to recall it 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later. Then I met this guy named Dr. Tim. I mean, he can remember everybody. And I said, it's gotta be a secret sauce to this. And it is. It is. You know what he does? I'm gonna tell on Dr. Tim right here. He says your name over and over in the conversation. And it's cranking. It's cranking right there. He's baking it in right there. He's soaking it in. He's locking it in. He's locking it in. And before you leave the conversation, you know what he's gonna do? You know what he's gonna do? He's gonna say, "Hey Marcus, it was so good to see you. Marcus, I can't wait for us to get together next time." He's gonna bake it in one more time. Guess what, Jonathan? I took that playbook and I use it right now to this day. When I meet someone new, I want to bake that name into the conversation because I want them to know I see you. You matter and you're important to me. Julie, the A in care, the A, which may be my favorite out of all of them. The A stands for attention to details. Attention to details. I have to tell you all because this y'all are good people, and those who are watching later, I know you're good people. I gotta tell you about the time, Damon, that I cried my eyes out as an educator. Now I'm from the South, and I try to be this macho man. I'm 140 pounds soaking wet, but I try to be this macho man. I try to hold it all together. And I never forget. I taught middle school, and middle school day was over, and I came over to the high school for after school rehearsal, and I see one of my ninth grade babies. Y'all know what I mean. When you take them up from middle school, you send them up to the high school. That's my baby, and I'm like, oh my goodness, Steve. Like, and I see her, one of my babies, and she's just crying and crying and crying. I'm like, wait a minute, why are you crying? And her name is Alyssa, and I'm like, Alyssa, what's going on? Because Alyssa was a sweet and quiet student. Do you know what I'm talking about? Sweet, quiet, doesn't bother anybody. Something like if she's crying like this, something has happened, and I want to know who did it, and they're going to see the side of Mr. Jenkins that they're not looking for. Like that's how it is, right? That's how it is. You stand up for those students that's quiet, sweet, and does nothing wrong. And so she says, Mr. Jenkins, you don't understand. You don't understand. You don't understand. I said, no, Alyssa, I don't understand. What has happened? She said, oh, Mr. Jenkins, today is my birthday. I'm like, oh, today is your birthday. That's why we're crying. That's why but Chad, the tears continue to fall. And Christina says, as I saw the tears continue to fall, now I'm confused. But Alyssa, it's your birthday, right? We're celebrating. And she says, yes. She says, but you don't understand. This morning when I got up and I got dressed for school, no one wished me a happy birthday. And she said, then first block, like I was ready to see my friends for first block, and no one, Jaden, wished me a happy birthday. She said, then lunch came, and I knew it was gonna happen because I sit with all my best friends for lunch, and none of them said happy birthday. But then I came to my final class of the day, which happened to be her band class. And she said, when I walked in the band class and as a clarinet player, she said, Mr. Jenkins, all 34 of my clarinet members came up to me with a Snickers bar and said, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. Now at this point, Scott, I'm crying. I'm a mess because I know that happened because of a seed that I sold into the student leaders. I told them during band camp, I need you to find out the birthday of everyone in your section. I need you to find out their favorite candy. And I know it may not be such a big thing to you, but it's a big thing for somebody. Here's what makes that conversation and that story so magical is that knowing that that seed was planted, she is now the section leader of the clarinets in her high school band. And you better believe she's doing the same thing of making sure her students know that she cares about them. Something as simple as a happy birthday. The C stands for call them by name. The A stands for attention to detail. Now the R is kind of pirate like. You will understand in a minute. Because it's three things. And these are the three things we have to ultra focus on, David, as leaders. These are the three things. Thing number one, we have to focus on results. We have to focus on results. And I know in a world where we have all these moving pieces, we do still have to remember what are the results we're going for? What are we aiming for? What's our target? What are we going after? So the first one out of the R is results. The second one is my favorite, relationships. Relationships. I really truly believe life moves at the speed of relationships. So Lisa, it's at the end of the day when the awards are called and all the trophies are given and all the things are finished, it comes down to the power of relationships. But then this third part of this acronym of R, this third part is the one I've been hyper focused on for the last 4 months, and it's called reaching higher. What am I doing to help my students reach higher? What am I doing to encourage my colleagues to reach higher? What am I doing, Chase? Like, what is a part of my daily routine to help my friends to reach higher? How many of you, when you go to the game, you are mesmerized like I am, that the cheerleaders down front, they're able to do the stack? You know what I'm talking about? Somebody standing on somebody's shoulder, and then sometimes they'll put somebody on top of them. I'm like, oh my goodness, my blood pressure be sky high. I can't do it. I can't go up that high. But when I see it, I think about as leaders, we're the ones willing to be at the bottom of that stack so that the people we serve can see higher, reach higher, think higher, and achieve much more than we can. All of us on this call, we're standing right now on the shoulders of giants that came before us in this profession. Someone paved the way for every last one of us on this call, even those of you that'll watch this later. Someone paved the way so that you can see higher and reach higher. So the C stands for call them by name. The A is attention to details, something as simple as a birthday. Oh my goodness, it goes a long way. And it makes such a big difference. The R, it's three things: results, relationships, and reaching higher. That's that golden triangle that I'm currently trying to keep myself in the mix of, that I know what the results are. I know that we're building strong and meaningful relationships, and we're always reaching higher. The final letter in the acronym. And really, truly, this is the game breaker. This is the deal breaker. This is the game changer. This is the one that all the others really hinge upon. Is this word, and it's a verb. It's my favorite verb. It's the verb encourage. Encourage. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And one way to really get that across is to encourage them, to lift them up. You all don't know what it feels like to get a video from the Dr. Marcus Morris. And it's a video because he knew if he called you, he'd probably call you like a rehearsal or something like that. So he'll send you a video and say, hey man, just love you. Just want to let you know it's gonna be all right. Keep your head up. It's gonna be all right. Keep going, keep going. And then the joy of that is I can go back and watch it over and over and over again. It's nothing like getting that encouraging email from Dr. Tim. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. You get the Dr. Tim email, you print it out, you just read it to yourself over and over because it's encouraging, it's uplifting, it reminds you of, there's much more. It's helping you to reach higher in so many subtle ways. I want all of you to know that today, I hope that you're intentional about encouraging your colleagues. In fact, we're going to get together in just a few minutes and we're going to do some breakout time and you get a chance to talk to each other and see what's going on and see some of the highlights. And here's a magic question I want you to start asking. I want you to add it to your toolkit. Here it is. Here's the magic question. What was the joy highlight of your, and fill in the blank? All right. I want you to use that as a jumping off point when we get together in just a moment. I want you to find out the people that's in your group. What is the joy highlight of your weekend? What was the joy highlight of your week? What was the joy highlight of your month? What has been the joy highlight of this semester for you? And when you hear the joy highlights, encourage the people in your circle to continue to go back to the well of that joy. Go back to the river of that joy. Go back over and over again to the things that bring you a little bit of highlight. I saw on the good Facebook, as you know, Cece, she went and she bought the 3-tier flower plant. I saw that the 3-tier flower stand. I was like, go Cece, go Cece, go. I don't have a green thumb. Mine is navy blue. I can't grow anything. But here's what I know. When you invest in taking care of yourself, putting the oxygen mask on yourself first, it allows you to be able to serve the people around you to the best of your ability. Well, my friends, I hope something was said tonight that has encouraged you, that help you to take that next step, to go the next mile. All the educators on this call, choir, strings, orchestra, general music, students, those who will watch this later, I want you to know that we all care about you. And we're so glad that you would spend time with us here tonight or even on the recording. Cece, I turn it back to you.
Well, let's do some breakout rooms. Cameron, that's fantastic. See, I told y'all an extra shot of positivity. If you are not here, you're watching this later, or you're watching in the replay again and again. Just remember those 15 minutes. That was just like, that was what you needed to refill your bucket. So what, Cameron, I know we talked about, like, let's get into these breakout rooms. Do we want to share what was the joy highlight of our semester so far with each other?
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's share joy. If we can, if you're okay with it, let's share joy all around our breakout rooms.
Steve, can you send us off into breakout rooms, sir?
Done. Lead the charge. We're all back. Let's go.
All right. Well, I hope you all had great conversations in your breakout room. We did. I mean, I learned so many amazing things. And just to remind all of us to keep that joy in front of you as you're going through the year, as you're going through the season. You know, it's almost like as soon as you finish one thing, here's the next thing on the list to accomplish, right? As educators, it's always ongoing. Just remember the joy of what brings you to the profession and what keeps you going so that when those moments happen, like David was just talking about, we kind of slow them down in time so that we can soak them in even more. I hope something was said tonight that will encourage all of you, that will lift you up. And remember that people really don't care how much we know until they truly know how much we care. Steve, it has been a joy to be with all of you. I'm so thankful. It's family. This is a family reunion in my eyes. So good to be with family. Thank all of you for your time to be here tonight. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cameron, will you tell us just, I mean, we can all read your bio and everything, but give us in 2 weeks what you'll be doing or whatever. You know what I'm talking about. What's that
Yes.
schedule look like, buddy?
It is crazy and bananas upside down is what it is. But thankfully, with a lot of virtual opportunities, I'm able to shift a lot of things now virtually. We're preparing now. Student leadership is not just inside of the band hall and not just the choir room, but now we have choir programs who want student leadership training and orchestra programs. You know, how can we get our students to the point where they know how to handle student to student interactions and how to handle them well. So for the next 2 weeks, a lot of virtual, a little bit of travel is on board, but I'm trying to minimize the travel now while the little ones are still little. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So yeah, the 4-year-old, as I was telling my group, that's Callie Ray. She's beautiful like my wife, but she's sassy like her dad. So that's just how it is. And then the 2-year-old is Kason. So he's tracking everything she says he wants to say. So yeah, so right now it's trying to spend some focus time with them. But yes, definitely lifting up the next generation. I'm also teaching at William Carey University. So that is a full-time, and my classes are virtual. So in the master's program and the doctoral program, it is 100% online. So it's fun to still be giving back inside of the profession in a teaching capacity and also on the move and on the go.
And you knocked out the doctor, right, buddy?
Yes, sir. That was done. So, Thank God. Horns down. That's what we said in our cohort. Horns down. So my cohort member is here tonight, Dr. William J. Irvin. He went through the program with me there at C.A.R.E. So good to see you, Dr. Irvin.
Hey, Dr. Jenkins, how you doing?
It's a great day. It is a great day.
Absolutely.
You got to keep up with him. He's got 2 of them now.
I'm gonna let him run that race by himself.
I'm not alone. Dr. Tim has two as well.
There you go. There you go. Let you guys run that one.
Good. I
Well,
want to know what
so much-
everybody's joy was. I want to know.
Oh, who wants to share? Allie, Kristen?
Hi. I told my group I purposefully woke up at 4 a.m. today to run across the Newport Bridge in Rhode Island and saw the sunrise with my college band director and his wife, who is my music ed mentor. And I've known them since 2002. And they are just, we've done this every year for the past 10 years. And it's the only day I'm excited to get up at 4 a.m. And I just had a wonderful morning just seeing the natural beauty of Newport Harbor and had a great, very unhealthy breakfast after and just had a wonderful day.
A lot of people did it, Allie. Were there a lot of
About
people?
3,000, maybe 4,000. It's pretty cool. It's a cool event. And it's just over the most beautiful view in Rhode Island. It's spectacular. So next year you should all come.
Sign me up.
I'll share if that's all right. When I retired a year and a half ago, I guess I kind of figured out that the kid relationships were sort of over for me, and it was so important, but I didn't know if I would ever really get to do that again. And I have some client schools that I see fairly regularly. And a couple of weeks ago, I walked into 2 of these band halls, sort of unannounced, and like 3 or 4 or 5 kids all at the same time. Hey, Mr. Christian, you're here today. Great. And handshaking and high-fiving. And I was like, oh, man, we still have relationships. That's awesome. So it was a big shot in the arm for me to experience that.
Well, I'll share mine just since real quick. If you're Facebook friends with me, you might have seen that I went to a jazz club to see a former student on Friday night. The kid's name is Jay Jennings. Jay's a phenomenal kid, a great player. Jay was in town and did a jazz show. Jay is a talent who made the 1 O'Clock Lab Band at North Texas as a freshman. And if you know the band Snarky Puppy, Jay is one of the founding members of Snarky Puppy. So he's got a few Grammys. He played with Toby Keith until Toby Keith passed away. But Jay was a great kid, a section leader, a 4-year All-Stater, and invited me to come down and see him in Fort Worth, and just off the charts phenomenal. Just the amount of talent and hard work goes along with that. So that was a great joy for me to get to spend the evening with Jay, hearing him do some phenomenal things that I wish I had taught him, but he far exceeded me a long, long time ago.
Does anyone else want to share before we wrap it up tonight? So important to keep this like right at the front of what we do, right? There's so many other things that can bring us down and make us focus on things that don't bring us joy, and to take the time to focus on joy is so important.
One of the things that's going to be in your letter coming this week is that how we all get trapped into this. Well, it's a time of the year when all the kids are in a slump. That's a myth. But pretty soon you start buying it and you become part of it because your colleagues have all said, oh, it's the flu season. And pretty soon you're like, damn, I got a sore throat too. So the myths we buy into will guide us. Our minds lead us in the direction of the most dominant thoughts. So we got to put good thoughts in there.
Amanda.
Yep. I've got um over homecoming week we resell like some spirit gear, and my mom made all these homemade Jolly Rancher lollipops. If you see those, there's like 3 Jolly Ranchers that you melt onto a lollipop stick, and we've sold them for years now, and the kids love them. But that Monday, the one of my 7th grade boys comes in, and he goes, "Here, I made all these origami things, and you can sell them for the band if you would like." I'm like, "Okay, don't ugly cry," because it was just so sweet and random, yet it like meant a lot for him to share all these origami creations that he had made. So we had our little basket, and some of them sold. I bought quite a few of them, just you know. But I emailed his mom, and like, for all the times that I'm just like, What am I doing?" Like, this was another reminder, like, okay, this is pretty awesome.
Tell you, I'll share real quickly, entirely that with my group, I talked about how our students handled themselves this weekend throughout the entire weekend. And one of the things I've challenged them earlier on was to balance what we are versus who we are. And what we are being the Georgia Redcoat Band, but who we are as individuals, who we are to our friend, our family, our friends, the community, ambassadors for the university. And so this weekend, everyone that's traveled, that there's always going to be something that happens, especially with a large group and you've got equipment. But one of the things that really stuck out is how our students handle themselves as professionals, even throughout an adverse atmosphere, uh, hecklers and all the things. They still smiled, they still handled themselves well. And we got back to the airport this afternoon in Atlanta, and there was just so much joy on their faces because not only were we back home, but they knew they accomplished the task. And it wasn't just performing well at the game, it was let's show everyone how professional we can be and remember not to lose who we were in the moment of being what we were. And so I was just extremely proud of them, and I'm very thankful and very very joyed tonight because of that.
Speaks louder than anything, Marcus.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Anything.
I want to share a joy thing with you all. I didn't mention this with the other group, but I have actually 2 of my students made it into Notre Dame University Band, and they're performing in New York at the Yankee Stadium the weekend before Thanksgiving. And one of my parents, she goes, "Look, Miss Castillo, I know you've been so busy and all. We're buying your plane ticket so you can come see the girls." And that's definitely more than a joy. That is like overwhelming. Very gracious of them to do that. And so I'm going to New York the weekend before that. And somehow, well, another thing is that my nephew is going to be singing at Carnegie Hall 2 days after that. So I'm going to hang out a little bit longer in New York to go see my students, my former students now, as well as my nephew. So that's definitely a lot of joy in my heart.
Congratulations. Choose joy, y'all. It is, and Cameron, you probably say this better than I can, but I know a lot of times when I have a student who comes in and they are just they're filled with fear or dread or stress and worry. I just remind them that it takes just as much energy to conjure up this fear as it does to invest in creating joy and finding hope. So do that, because the best version of yourselves as music educators is really what's going to bring out the best in all of our students. Cameron, Tim, what do you have for us?
Have a good week. Cameron, thanks for being here, buddy.
Glad to be here. Everybody have a
Lot of
great
fun.
week.
Okay.
Thank you. Be well, my friends.
See ya.